the weekend chaos over this new executive action to restrict U.S. entry from places President Trump views as a terrorist threat, just one giant example. Signing the action Friday, yes, kept a big campaign promise. But the government agencies charged with implementing the restrictions say they were giving little or no advance warning and conflicting information about who was allowed in and who wasn't.
And is it a Muslim ban?
Totally. It's not a Muslim ban, but we were totally prepared. It's working out very nicely. You see it at the airports. You see it all over. It's working out very nicely. And we're going to have a very, very strict ban, and we're going to have extreme vetting, which we should have had in this country for many years.
That ban affects some 130 million people, and before it was 24 hours old, it suffered its first and then several legal setbacks. Federal judges Saturday saying the government cannot send back people who had legal papers when they left for the United States, but were then deemed in violation of the new Trump rules when they landed. Trump critics see a reckless rush to show action.
It's an awful decision, and it plays right into the ISIS and al-Qaeda narrative that the West is essentially inhospitable to Muslims.
So what do we make of this on Sunday morning? As we will see today, more of this. This story is developing as we speak. More people trying to get into the country, some nations canceling flights, some of our neighbors, Canada to the north, some of our allies, Turkey in its region saying, hey, if you can't get into the United States, come here, we'll take you.
Well, we're seeing the implementation of a worldview from some of Trump's top advisors, specifically Steve Bannon, as it relates to immigration. It's always been on the table that what they want to do is put in place a new concept for immigration that is, quote unquote, America first, which means that even folks who are here, who are not citizens, who have legal documentation, are not entitled to the same rights as United States citizens. That goes a little bit, actually quite a bit farther than what this country has seen in quite some time. And it sets up a real both a legal challenge and also a challenge within the Republican Party about how to deal with this. I mean, remember, for many years, Republicans have wanted the executive branch to put the brakes on, putting into place immigration policy without consultation from the legislative branch. We have all three branches of government on a path to collision. And I think that's where this is headed. There's just no way it doesn't end up embroiled in the courts, and eventually Republicans on the Hill are going to have to grapple with it.
The word collision means chaos to some degree. And we saw from the campaign and in the transition that the president likes that sometimes. He likes to stir it up. But now that he's running the government, and you have these agencies saying, we didn't know, or they changed, they told us green card no, then green card yes, then green card no. Is the chaos in the end maybe undermine his, I'm going to run the government like a business?
Well, I think what you also see here is a premium on action and on doing something and on message. I mean, this is what he talked about during his campaign. President Trump talked about America first. He proposed a Muslim ban, then he backed off of it a bit. You don't actually see that in the text of this executive order any specific Muslim ban, but he does not mind that this is the story. I mean, you heard him in the Oval Office just then saying, this is working very nicely.
Which is inaccurate.
This is the start, though, that he wanted, and that he and his senior staff believe is the right strategy. That they will get hit by the courts. I think that's for them a foregone conclusion, that they'll get hit by Democrats. They may even get hit by Republicans, although interestingly, we're not hearing too much from the House or Senate Republicans who criticized the idea of doing this during the campaign. But the premium here is on being seen to act and being seen to fulfill campaign promises. And all the details are for later on and are for, I think they believe are up for debate. And it is, I think, related to this war on the media that we have heard Mr. Trump and his top aides pushing this week. If they can undercut the sources of information, then all of the chaos seems to be part of a he said, she said, they said, they're trying to undermine me. And I think that's where we are right now. We're seeing, a lot of backlash, obviously at airports and around the country to this refugee executive order, and yet they will argue, and probably have some success in doing so, that this is just my enemies trying to undercut what I'm doing.
Well, I can see now, you could see this, if these temporary court challenges, people issuing stays saying you can't do this, can't do that, let's take a deeper look at this, don't rush to send people back if they came here, when they got on the plane, they thought they had the right papers. But I can see this going, if he does lose in the court, because maybe this was drawn up too quickly, maybe not drawn up, they don't have a full justice team in place yet. They don't have a full State Department team in place yet. Him saying, even if the judges throw it out because it was done a little sloppily, saying there go activist judges again siding with the terrorists, not me in America.
Right, yeah. And I mean, on the one hand,
We shouldn't be so surprised. On the wall, on the Muslim ban, even though he's trying not to call it that, it effectively is. These are things that he ran on and he won on. But on the other hand, you had a majority of Americans in the popular vote not supporting him. And so 2 Saturdays in a row, you've seen vast amounts of protests to what President Trump is doing. So I think that that's the other thing that's developing is these striking images, both on the Mall last Saturday and last night at airports around the country with people chanting. And I think that that's like going forward. Trump welcomes chaos and he's getting it. He's getting a lot of conflict.
And let's just put the map up. So if you were maybe enjoying your day yesterday on Saturday and didn't follow this so closely, you see the highlighted countries there. The countries affected by this: Iraq, Syria, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen. Now, there's existing policy from the Obama administration that the Trump administration says that gives them, they think, a better legal argument to defend this one in court, even though they've expanded. What's been not on the list? Pakistan, the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Lebanon, Egypt. The administration on a background call yesterday saying this action might have prevented San Bernardino. Well, no, it wouldn't have. Number one, the male there was an American citizen, and his fiancée came from Pakistan. So it would not have. And so, again, this is to the point about, are they rushing this and they can't even get their own story, their own spin straight because it's so important, to your point, action out of the gate?
Well, and I mean, what we also know is that they did not consult with the experts in the government that deal with these things. They did not consult with the State Department. They did not consult with the Department of Homeland Security, counter to what they said in that briefing yesterday, in advance. And perhaps some of those officials could have filled them in on some of the details of that. But again, I think that the intent here was to show we are doing something to get out in front of this issue, whether real or imagined, of people trying to use the refugee program or even just legal immigration to come here and cause harm to Americans.
Yeah, we should stress this wasn't just refugees yesterday. These were green card holders. These were people these were legal immigrants that were being stopped once they were getting off planes. And the government's own lawyers weren't prepared to deal with this. They didn't have answers for the judge in New York. And which is why you had, I'm going to misquote her, but this quippy statement saying, well, you guys really didn't do a lot of homework on this. And truer words were never spoken.
Well, they didn't have time to do homework.
They didn't have time. They weren't told.
They weren't told. They didn't have time to do homework. There's without a doubt the nationalists, and we saw this in the campaign, there's competition for Trump's attention and competition for Trump's agenda, and the Steve Bannon, Jared Kushner wing is winning at the moment with this, without a doubt. But to your point about relatively muted criticism from Congress, there has been some. Speaker Ryan said this is not a Muslim ban, and the president has every right to try to keep us safer. Let's see how it plays out. He tried to be careful, Speaker Ryan. But listen to Republican Senator Ben Sasse of Nebraska says if we send a signal to the Middle East that the United States sees all Muslims as jihadis, the terrorist recruiters win by telling kids that America is banning Muslims and that this is America versus one religion. This was the argument against this during the campaign, that in doing this so quickly, does it actually help ISIS and the other bad guys recruit?
Yes, it does help ISIS and the bad guys recruit. If you talk to any intelligence expert yesterday, that's what they're going to tell you. That's what humanitarian groups were telling me yesterday, that this has very dire consequences, and it does very little, if not make it worse, to stop terrorism.
The executive order makes life very difficult for people who have already been established as law-abiding citizens, who are following the rules, who are doing the right thing. And that is intended in part because when the Department of Homeland Security was trying to interpret this executive order that had been hastily put together, they learned about it in the minutes before Donald Trump signed it. They had to make a determination, who does it apply to? And CNN reported that the White House weighed in and said it applies to everyone, which means that that determination didn't come from expert lawyers in the subject matter who deal with this every day. It came from the political folks within the White House. And that tells you everything you need to know about this as more of a political document than as a policy document or even as a national security document, because there is no national security imperative to detain people who have already been through rigorous vetting processes, are permanent legal residents in this country. And that's something that Paul Ryan did not address in his statement. He only addressed the refugee portion of this. And I don't know that that's going to be able to be a stance that a lot of Republicans can take, come Monday and Tuesday when they're back in the halls of Congress and they have to answer questions day in and day out about this.
And we'll see as this plays out, but it also tells you at the moment that the White House is running policy, not the cabinet agencies. Now, that may change because not all those cabinet officials, and especially the deputy deputies are in place yet, but right now, the close Trump's inner circle, President Trump's inner circle, is running the show and setting policy.